Train the muscles, not the joints. So as you can see, that offers just a different level of intensity because I'm overloading one part of the range of motion and then going into a fuller range of motion. Like I said in another video, I like playing around with ranges of motion like this because it sometimes can add a different dynamic that might help you isolate an area that you're having a harder trouble getting, right? So the other reason why you might want to do it is maybe doing the exercise all the way to a certain point might cause you some pain or discomfort, or maybe you're experiencing some sort of instability in the joints and you feel like tighter and more control doing just a few inches of the movement. You know, as much as there's so much hate towards this type of technique, it is a legitimate technique that has been used by bodybuilders since the dawn of time. It's only through this crazy sort of internet age where people are just, you know, creating fanatical sort of cult followings around one technique or another that this type of technique has been hated. It's only since a bunch of kids that are just stuck in their fucking brain, right, with no experience, it's only since these guys have been dominant on social media that this type of stuff's been pushed aside. But it's not because they have optimal gains or the best results, you know what I'm saying? So you know, 12-year-olds have low body fat levels, but that doesn't mean they have a lot of strength knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Or bodybuilding knowledge. So without throwing everybody under the bus, because I know there's some pretty smart millennials out there too, and pretty open-minded and so forth, pretty wise for their age, some of them. The fact is that intensity on the muscle is all that matters. It's not about full range or partial range or isometrics. You know, it's not like it has to be one or the other. It's about what establishes the most intensity on the muscle. And I would say that contraction and stretch is a part of the whole thing. So as you notice here, spending more time in the stretch of the movement, and that I find is more effective in most cases for muscle growth. Not always, but most cases. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt, whatever, apply it in your own training in whatever way you feel it works, but don't let other people convince you that it does not work in building muscle, because it definitely does. That's the bottom line. Now, it's important for you to understand that I'm not saying that fuller ranges of motion can't be beneficial under certain circumstances. Of course they can, but if you look at nature, most of what you're doing is a partial range of motion. If you're running, if you're jumping, you know, how often are you squatting all the way down to the ground and then doing 100% intensity to jump up in the air? That wouldn't be efficient, you know what I'm saying? So there has to be a piece of the logic that you contain in your bodybuilding exercises that has to do with the logic of nature, like moving in a way that isn't supremely awkward, or moving in a way that's, let's just say, tension advantageous to you, right? You have advantages in some way. That's the way the body was made to move. That's the way the body naturally moves towards. If you ask somebody to do some sort of task, they don't find the most awkward way to do it. They find the way that's more efficient. And bridging the gap between these two things is going to allow you to get more out of your exercises, right? There's too much awkward for the sake of awkward instead of working with what comes naturally to the body, or more naturally, you know? So yeah, there is a blend of sometimes you have to gain in flexibility and so forth in order for proper body functionality, but that's different than just making something awkward and putting yourself at a disadvantage right? Putting your muscles and your joints at a disadvantage in order to accomplish a task. You know what? Something about that just feels right. I don't give a shit what anybody says, it just feels right. And when it feels right, it's gotta be right. I'm gonna give you a secret tip right now, something that just came to mind that I naturally do sometimes. Sometimes when I do this, I'm actually adjusting my shoulder back into place, just so you know, because it's in a weird position compared to the other one. But anyway, if your muscle group, one of your muscle groups is tight from a workout, maybe the day before or a few days before, doing a light stretching movement and really concentrating just on the stretching part of the movement itself can bring a really huge pump and good results too, because it's almost like you're breaking up all the tightness in the area, but you're not doing it aggressively with super heavy weight. You're trying to do a moderate weight so that way it's not dangerous, but at the same time, you're taking advantage of that extra tightness to basically tear it apart a little bit more and to see what type of gains you can get from that. Now, again, I cannot stress using lighter weight enough. You have to use lighter weight. If you use heavier weight, you might pull something or injure yourself. So if you're sore, or you're slightly sore, use moderate weight, don't use super heavy weight that day. You know what I'm saying? So you'll have to go on how you feel on this, but err on the side of caution. That's the first thing I'd say. Ah, that feels good. Mountain. Now this is something I just started doing the other day just for fun, because like I said, I'm always experimenting, trying things that are new. But one thing you might find when you're doing barbell curls like a standard way is that your front delt comes into play quite a bit. Now, depending on what's going on with your shoulders or your genetics or whatever, you might find that the front delt start to get involved quite a bit. Now, one thing I did last workout was I bent over quite a bit and narrowed my grip on the bar and just did short curls. Now you're going to be using lighter weight, but the pump and the feeling and the tension I got in the biceps was insane. It was really great. So sometimes by shifting the angle up, changing the grip, the exact same exercise can all of a sudden become an effective exercise rather than one that you're fighting with all the time. Now you can always go back to the original exercise and do that here and there, but it is good to do these variations because they might yield unexpected results. So here I go. Now I got to bend over a little bit for sure, not a ton, but a bit. So it's almost like a hybrid preacher slash concentration. I don't know what to call it. There's a different type of pump. I'm telling you, it feels great. It's pretty good. Try it out. So yeah, you're not using maximal poundages. You're using pretty lightweight. The tension is, I tell you, it feels pretty good right on there. Okay, see that right there? So I've just bent over a little bit. See? Don't have to bend over a lot, just a little bit. My tricep gets dug right into the lat. Now, some of you guys are probably asking, hey, Jason, you said you should use movements that are more in the stretch position, and that one is more in the contraction position, right? Because stretching for bicep would be back like this, like on the incline curl. But the thing is that sometimes putting your body in a certain positioning will still optimize tension on a muscle, even if the muscle's not stretched. Funny enough, right? So in this case, yes, there's a stretch when I open up the arm, but it's not like the ultimate stretch. So yeah, sometimes well, let's just put it this way. That's why it's important for you to break your dogma. You come up with general rules, and then you break those rules and find out where the truth lies. Now, the other issue I get with some people is that they say, hey, Jason, you're moving the body a little bit. That doesn't really matter, because I'm just trying to do whatever it takes to feel myself into getting more tension on here. And say I get an extra rep or two, right? Say I get an extra rep or two on the biceps because I use a little bit of body English. Well, that's great, because now I'm pushing that bicep into a deeper level of failure. You see what I'm saying? Like where the purists would say, oh, just strict no matter what, just up and down, up and down, right? And they just talk like that. Well, say their set doesn't last as long, they can't do as many reps, but if they used a bit of body English, they'd be able to get a couple extra more reps, and that will push them into a deeper level of failure, therefore increasing the intensity. So there is a bit of comfort sometimes in an exercise that's okay. You're allowed to use comfort. Sometimes just by repositioning your body a little bit, you can get more tension on that muscle belly instead of just being an exercise purist. And that's the thing. So I naturally go with my instincts and what naturally helps me just get a deeper level, that burn, that squeeze. Right? Remember, I talked about nature, about what comes naturally. A little bit of that, what comes naturally, is actually applicable in exercises where a lot of the left brain thinkers, right? They have a tendency to oversimplify stuff and say it's just the muscle. It's like, no, you're an entire system. You're not just one muscle group. And yes, you can isolate that muscle group to a point, but is that to your advantage, being ultimately isolated as opposed to just helping your body efficiently be able to bring more tension to that area? So you could call it philosophy, you can call it bro science, you can call it whatever you want, but I know that I get a deeper level of burn and I can go further into the set by doing what it is I'm doing. Now, the other thing is, I'm not stretching all the way down to the bottom of this. I'm not straightening the arm. Well, the reason why is because when I straighten the arm, it takes the tension off the bicep. And I want to just keep that pumping motion going, keep that pumping motion going. You could call it like a concentration type of movement, I guess. But I'm getting a wicked pump from it. So I'm not saying all your movements have to be this way, but you have to bring in your instincts a little bit at some point, especially once your wisdom grows. Some of you guys might be beginners, right? But at some point, you're going to notice that there's certain things that feel right, and your feelings may be wrong most of the time in the beginning, but at some point, they start to bring you more wisdom. It's like you're purifying this experience, right? So yeah, let's do another set here. Okay, that's it for those. Huh? So yeah, so those are a couple exercises that I'm doing today. I'm doing a few more now. I'm gonna let you guys go, but hopefully this helped you out, helps you understand a little bit more about exercises and how to feel yourself through. No, don't feel yourself, but how to navigate through what is the perfect form for you in order to get ultimate tension on a certain area. So thanks a lot for watching, and thanks a lot to the patient supporters, and take care for now. Mountain.